and welcome to my channel. My name is Lynn and today I am going to be making my very first infinity card with the help of this die set from Concord and Ninth. I think it's actually called Infinity Birthday, and there's the one main die which cuts out this half circle, and if you've never seen an infinity card, it has these really interesting folds that you can just keep on folding and it will just kind of fold itself back to the starting point. But there are some interesting scenes that you can create, and with every fold there's sort of a different layout that you can play with. And this one in particular is special because it will actually create you a circle-shaped card. And what I'm showing here, because I don't have a good shot of it later, is the 4 areas that you'll have to apply your adhesive. And that's the only place that there's glue on this entire card base, which is comprised of 4 half circle die cuts. And when you run this through your die cutting machine, it will put in 2 score lines, and that's where you will fold and where the card will bend. And I am choosing to actually add some pattern paper mats and layers. So I just found a circle die out of my stash from one of my nested circle die sets, and I found the halfway point and I just cut it in half. So this circle is actually, it's just a smidge smaller than the full circle that the die will cut out. And you'll need 4 half circle die cuts to make one card. And I'm going to line both the front of each of these half circles and the back with some pattern paper. What I did learn was that I went into this knowing that I didn't want to have too thick of a cardstock as my base, the white layer, because I knew that I would be adding these layers of pattern paper, and you do need to actually, bend and fold on those score lines. But it still ended up being fairly thick. In the end, it still worked out okay, but I would recommend using actual paperweight instead of a pattern paper that might be a little bit more towards the lightweight cardstock, which is what I'm using here. So my white layer is actually 60-pound cover weight, and that's the lightest sort of white cardstock that I have. And the pattern paper is from various Crafter's Companion boxes that I have, and I don't know for certain the weight of those papers, but I think it's kind of close to 60-pound as well. And ultimately I'm going to end up with 3 layers of paper, which is pretty thick once you add all of that up. If you were going to just stamp on your card base instead of adding pattern paper, then I would recommend maybe aiming for something around 100-pound cover, and that should probably hold up pretty well, especially if you do think that whoever you give this to might kind of play with it a lot. And so that will definitely hold up and probably wouldn't tear. The challenge with layering on too many layers or too many thick pieces of cardstock is that, one, those folds are going to be stiffer, so it's going to be a little bit harder to actually interact with the card the way it's supposed to. 2, with all of those layers, it may start to crack a little bit at those score lines. So you kind of have to be a little bit gentle, but you shouldn't have to expect that the card recipient needs to be gentle with it. So that's sort of the trade-off there. And as I'm folding on these score lines, I did take it to my scoreboard, and as you saw, scored over those lines again. And when I went to fold it, I did fold it pretty gently to start, just so that I can start to train that paper to fold both back and forward. You don't have to put a hard crease in it though, because these segments here, they don't ever fold down, you know, super flat. And so I didn't actually burnish, I just folded. So I've actually also got this extra piece of one of those half circle die cuts. And this is how I like to line everything up. So I line this up so that the blue line is where the edge of my card base is, one of the segments, and I folded this template die cut straight in half, and I line up that fold with the edge of the card base, or at least the center of the card base. So by lining it up like this, I know that I'm going to have a piece that is perfectly perpendicular to the center of my card base. So where this white piece of cardstock is, my template, I'm going to fold that in half, and essentially this is where the other piece of my card will get adhered. So I only want to put glue in this little triangular corner here, and the blue line is where my card base is, and the green line is where the template fold is, and I only want to put glue where that red area is. And I'm trying not to put it too close to either of the score lines because I am using a liquid adhesive, so I don't want it to kind of ooze out beyond where it needs to go. And so that is the only spot where there's going to be glue. Now I'm lining this up so that it is going to run basically below where I plan to adhere the one of the other half circles. So again, I'm lining up the fold with the edge of the card base, that blue line. And when I unfold this, this piece will also be perfectly perpendicular to the bottom two pieces. And I'm going to be careful to hold this in place, making sure it's perfectly lined up. And I'm just gonna put down some low-tack tape just to tack it down. And then now I have something to butt up my other half circle against as I adhere it down. So this is how you can ensure that your pieces are attached perfectly perpendicular to one another. Now, if you want, I believe you can go to the Concord and Ninth website, and there's a template that you can print out, which will help you with this alignment as well. But I find just having this extra scrap piece of half circle die cut pretty much achieves the same thing. So here I'll do that again. I'm gonna fold this where the other half will go so that I know where to put my glue. And since half of it's already down, then I have something to kind of butt up against. And I'm just going to use that template again so that I get glue only where I need it. And then I'll tack down the final two areas here. So that's how you attach or assemble your card base. And as you saw at the beginning, I keep one that's perfectly assembled, and then I have other of those half circle die cuts where I've numbered everything so that I know what's visible and when. And that way, that can be especially useful if you want to stamp. images onto your card base instead of using pattern paper like I have. And the front and the backmost, they're easy to decorate and plan for, and because you'll see them pretty much whole as you see it here. But when you get to that second and that third fold, that's where it's actually a combination of the top two half circles as well as the bottom two half circles. So that's why I like to keep those templates around that are numbered so I know what pattern is seen when. And I did want to add a little bit of this grassy edge to the bottom of my circle so that my puppy has somewhere to kind of sit and he doesn't look like he's just floating. But I didn't want to add yet another layer on that fold, so that's why I actually cut my paper right where the fold would be. That way it's not adding any additional layers or tension or anything like that. And so this will still bend and fold really easily, or at least as easily as it did with the pattern paper. So it's just not adding anything extra. And I guess you could do that with the pattern paper too, just cut it where those score lines are. But I thought it was sort of a nicer finish to have it complete. But maybe if I were to do this again, I would either use thinner paper or maybe keep the front whole, but on the inside, what you're seeing here, maybe cut these pieces of pattern paper at the fold. That way, you know, I can still have the nice pattern paper, but it's not bulking up those score lines and where those folds are. It'll be a lot easier to kind of work the mechanism. I think I got away with it on this card, I think, but it's kind of sort of at the verge of getting to be a little too thick. But it's with a lot of sort of exercising the mechanism, just playing with it, helps to sort of loosen it up, get all of those folds used to kind of working in the way that they should. The only thing is that you know, I don't want to work this card too much to where, you know, by the time I send it, it looks worn. So that's sort of the trade-off. But yeah, I think the next time I do this, I'll probably use a lighter weight paper. Now this is the backmost panel, and I wanted to give myself a space to actually write a little message and sign this card. And so I'm using one of the dies that came in the set, which cuts out this matte layer, to give myself that white space. And the little puppy stamped images and die cuts are actually from a stamp and die set from CC Designs. And I'm just kind of continuing to exercise this a little bit, and I decided that on the third fold it looked a little bit plain, so I'm adding another banner, and all of these little banners do come in the die set, which you can see off to the left there. And the celebrate and make a wish sentiment that I used are also from this die set, but I just used an alphabet die set that I have to die cut relax into that banner, which you'll see on the third fold. And you can kind of already see that there isn't cracking, but you can definitely see sort of the crinkling of the paper on the front where the score lines are. And all in all, though, super fun card to create. It's actually pretty easy to put together, especially having the die and keeping those extra die cuts around as templates. But even though this does, you can see me, you know, folding or turning this with ease, but all the same, I think this would have been a little bit nicer if I had used some thinner pattern papers. So I'm definitely going to try that next time. I hope that you enjoyed this card, and if you did, please consider liking, commenting, and sharing. And if you want to catch new videos as I post them, consider subscribing to my channel and ringing the notification bell. Thanks so much. Until next time, happy crafting and have a fantastic day. Bye.